What's up, guys? I want to do a video on my dyno run for my bike, give you the details of that after a cam install. So I wanted to talk about the ThunderMax tuner, the cam that I installed, and what the results were on my first dyno run. Had the bike dynoed at Burnout Cycles in Rossville, Georgia. If you're around that area, North Georgia, Southeast Tennessee, these guys are really good. Good group of guys to work with. So we'll go to the computer and I'll show you the dyno run and we'll talk about it. Okay, so let's look at this dyno. All right. Overall numbers, 106.19 and torque 118.5. Now the obvious elephant in the room is right here, this drop. Now I'm just starting to study this and understand what's going on and why. Of course, I'm learning exhaust system can play a huge role in this dip. People call it back pressure, whatever you want to call it. But an exhaust system can play a huge role in this lug down low. And when I did the dyno run, well, for those of you who don't know, let's talk about how you do a dyno run. So what they do is they put the bike on the dyno, they run it up to 4th or 5th gear. I can't remember which one. You can't do it in 6. You'd never get all the way up to top speed. But once you get into the 4th or 5th gear, you let off the throttle and you let the bike fall in RPMs. It's going to fall all the way down. And you can see he fell here to about 1875, 1900 RPMs. And when it hit this spot, you hit the throttle hard as you can, just wide open. And you hold it until it comes all the way over and hits the rev limiter, which was about 6150. Somewhere in there is where I hit the rev limiter right here. So you lug the bike and then you gas it all the way. If you're racing, you're not going to be gassing it at 1900. Okay, so you're going to gear down and run your RPMs up into here and then get on it. So if you're messing around with a friend or trying to pass somebody, you go to lug it or take off. You're not going to lug it here. You're going to throttle down. Now this goes back to talking about my first video. My first video, I talked about cam selection and what you need, the questions you need to ask for you in choosing a cam for your M8. Do you want one with more low end? Do you want one with more high end? Now don't mistake what I'm saying. This right here is not correct regardless. But this is an example. When you're coming out of a turn, especially if you're two up, you're in the mountains and you're lugging it, down in here is where you're going to be. Okay? So I noticed immediately when I got on my bike, after I put the cam in and the tuner is a ThunderMax tuner. So I noticed immediately that it was kind of a dog from here to here. But from here up, it ran absolutely wonderful. This drop in torque is also evident by this stagnant line in horsepower. See, this thing should do this. Okay? And this should do something like this. So the first thing I got to address is what's causing this lag or this dip from here to here. Some people will say, well, it's the exhaust, and I'm studying that, and I'm trying to understand more about the exhaust and what I can do to help that. But the guy that dyno tuned it, and I want to give a shout out to Burnout Cycles in Georgia, North Georgia here. I think it's Rossville, Georgia. Awesome bunch of guys. He looked at this and he said, let's go put the sniffers in the pipe. Now, I'm going to explain sniffers a little more later in the video, but normally he would have sensors in the head pipe as close to the cylinder, exhaust port of the cylinder as he could get. And they would read air-fuel ratio. I have a ThunderMax tuner, so we didn't hook up those sensors because I already run sensors in my pipe for the ThunderMax. So a normal tune like a Dyno jet, Power Vision. You buy the Dyno jet programmer, and it comes with without sensors. They're not the wideband sensors that the ThunderMax tuner uses. So with the ThunderMax, you have to put the sensors in the pipe because it does auto tuning itself. And we're going to come back to that. I don't want to get sidetracked here. But since we weren't able to put the sensors in the head pipe, it was just a quick dyno run. He had what he called sniffers he stuck up the tailpipe. So let me show you, they monitor air-fuel ratio, which is critical for tuning a gas engine. Let me see if I can find it here. Right, here we go. So I'm looking at the screen over here on another computer. It's larger, so if you wonder why I keep looking away, that's what I'm doing. Air-fuel ratio 1 and 2. This is supposed to represent one cylinder versus the other cylinder. And this is what his sensors picked up on the dyno run. Look at this. This right here is the ideal line that we're shooting for. I would say from 13.2 to 13.7 is kind of an ideal air-fuel ratio. So looking at this air-fuel ratio, he's saying bank 1 has, as you can, again, he's got his ideal target line here around 13 is what he wants to meet, or what the dyno jet put in here. So as you can see, I got a major problem up to 3,500 RPMs. Now that coincides with where I've got my dip. And look, it starts getting better at 3,500 RPMs. So there is a problem from here to around 3,400 RPMs. Well, it shows it right here on air-fuel ratio. It's about 19. So air-fuel ratio, the stoichiometric ideal air-fuel ratio for efficiency is 14.7 to 1. And what that means is for every 1 gram of fuel, you need to have 14.7 grams of air. Now, if I quote in this wrong, don't come on my page and start flipping out and getting stupid. Just correct me and let's move on, okay? I've had some people in one video, I referenced, not to digress here, but a little bit of a funny story. Had a guy, I referenced handlebars on my bike like 5 times. And then one time I said steering wheel by accident. It was a slip. I wasn't realizing what I said. This guy just loses his damn mind. So everybody relax just a little bit. I mean, I thought he was going to have a coronary because I said steering wheel. Oh my God. I mean, he must be living a tough life or something, that he's on edge or something, but I wish him the best. I hope he's doing okay, and he didn't do anything irrational because I said steering wheel 1 time out of 5. So, if I quote something wrong, those of you out there with more experience, by all means, go to the comments, correct me, and that way we can get the right date out. But anyway, 14.7 to 1. So for every 1 gram of fuel, you need 14.7 grams of air. Now in tuning, you want to be around 13 to 13.5 is my understanding. Some people like to go down to 12. So let's look at what mine shows. I would be 19 to 1. That's insane. I've got 19 grams of air for every 1 gram of fuel, theoretically. So I'm way too lean. Way too lean. From here all the way to here, I'm extremely lean. Now look what happens. My tuning comes back in line. Now this is not ideal. This needs to be adjusted. But I'm riding around 15 and then drop to 14. And then I get to 13, 13.2 for just a minute. And then I go rich. So I'm lean as hell here. Drop down slightly lean. Even less slightly lean. And then I go rich. Well, let's look at the other bank. I start off, and instead of going rich, now I'm down here to 10 grams of air to 1 gram of fuel, theoretically again. And what I've got here is I'm extremely rich. I've got less air and more fuel. And you can see this coincides up to 3,500 RPMs. And then this one tries to come in line all the way out. Okay? It gets close enough. I wouldn't, I'm happy with this from here to here. But I've got some major issues in my tuning from here to here on both of these. So, before I put too much time into changing an exhaust, trying to change back pressure, I want to understand what's going on right here with my tuning. This line needs to be down here like this, and this one needs to be up here like this. So I have a stock head pipe that I have decatted and welded bungs onto for the O2 sensors for the ThunderMax. And then I have neighbor hater slip-ons. So I'm sure I don't have much back pressure. But like I said, I'm not going to put a lot of time and focus on the exhaust until I know that my tuning is correct. All right. So let's go back here. I have got to get this more like this, or like this. So this, I drew this in of a copy. So in an ideal situation, I'd probably be looking at something from here all the way out to here and down. But because what appears to be my air-fuel ratio is off, I've got a major problem right here down low. Bike runs great up top. Well, it's evident from here to here. And from here up, pulls good. No dip in horsepower, just about all the way out to redline. But I've got a major problem right here. All right, so what is this problem? The ThunderMax is unique, and I'm going to do a whole video on the ThunderMax, what my thoughts are, and some a little bit of description on how it works, and so on and so forth. So the ThunderMax is set up to do its own tuning, auto-tune is what they call it. You drive your bike under normal circumstances, and you may have to drive it 100 miles, 300 miles, 400 miles, whatever. Just get out and ride like you normally would. And then you come back and you hook your computer up to the ThunderMax, and the software will give you in each table, don't quote me on this because I can't remember right off, I think you got a red line, a green line, and a yellow line. The red line, I believe, is the base tune that you loaded. The green line is the tune that you're actually running at the moment. And the yellow line is where the ThunderMax says, I want to make these changes to tune your bike. So it's pretty cool in the sense that when you're done riding, you can hook up and it'll say, here's where you need to make changes. Would you like for me to make these changes for you? And you hit yes, and it writes the changes to the tune. Then you go drive again. you drive and you drive and you drive, trying to vary your throttle position and RPM. Come back, you hook up, it'll make changes for you again. Now, I did this like 7 times. Well, before I get into that, let's talk about how it tunes. That's pertinent to this right here. I'm happy with the 10. Well, I'm not going to say I'm not happy. I'm not going to say I'm happy. I'm not extremely disappointed with 106.2 horsepower and 118.5 torque. You got to remember, 106 horsepower, stock bike's 80. My bike did 80 horsepower stock, 79.8. So this is 26 horsepower. That's a 30% horsepower increase. 30% increase? That's pretty darn good. And this thing runs like it's got a 30% increase in horsepower. It's amazing, except from here to here. So, 26 horsepower increase, I'll take it. What I wanted to see was 112, 114. That's what I wanted to see. Going into it, he asked me what I wanted to see, and I said I'd like to see 112, 114, somewhere in there. Now, you look at some of Fuel Moto's dyno charts, same mods. Hell, they're doing 122 horsepower with the same cam I got. Now, they've either figured something else nobody else has, or their numbers are slightly inflated. However, I've got a tuning problem right here down low, but that don't have anything to do with this final horsepower number right here. With the exception, they tune on a dyno with a DynoJet Power Vision. I'm going to come back to that because I've got an idea. So the ThunderMax, how does it tune? It references throttle position and RPM. So think of your throttle. In some vehicles, they have what's called a potentiometer. So as you push your pedal, it'll go from 0 to 5 volts. 5 volts is wide open throttle. 2.5 volts is half throttle. 1.25 volt is a quarter throttle, so on and so forth. So let's think of their throttle as a percentage. 5%, 10%, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, so on and so forth. This thing is tuning, referencing your throttle and your RPMs. So here's where it gets interesting. You could have your throttle at 35% and be at 4,000 RPMs. Or you could have your throttle at 80% and be at 4,000 RPMs, or 100% at 4,000 RPMs, or anything in between. So you have to remember that. When I went out and did my initial auto-tuning by driving, I didn't focus from here, well, let me take it back. From here to here. Okay? I'm never here. I'm really not ever really right here unless I'm taking off. And I'm from here to here for a brief second, and then I jump to here. So I got to watching him dyno, and when he let this bike lug down, all the way to 1800, and then nails it, I thought, I have not tuned right there. So, after seeing this dyno, I took my bike out, found a straightaway, and tried to mimic the dyno run so that the ThunderMax tuner could see this area right here at wide open throttle. The dyno runs wide open throttle. So then the only other variable is RPMs. So I find this straightaway, I run up to 4th gear, lug the bike, let it fall to 1800, and then I hit it wide open, and I held it all the way to red line. Then I did 5th gear, and then I did 3rd gear. Point being, it doesn't matter what gear you're in. I'm trying to get my ThunderMax to recognize this dip that I saw on the dyno, so it'll make a fueling change to bring this down. My hope was it's going to recognize that I am too lean here and I am too rich here, and the ThunderMax would make a fueling change. So I get home and I hook up. Drop my mic, so hang on. So I get home, I hook up my computer, and I open the ThunderMax software. The odd thing was, I know I had never tuned there. So I was expecting that this run, the ThunderMax would be like, whoa, you need to make some changes from here to here to address this and this. I was shocked because the ThunderMax said I needed to make no changes. I went ahead and updated the tune in case there was something in there I wasn't seeing, and I haven't put it back on the dyno. So here's what I'm going to do. If I go back to the dyno after doing my tuning from here to here, and my dyno run shows this same situation, then I've got two variables I got to look at. The ThunderMax tuner is not recognizing it down low where it needs to. Or I need to look at exhaust and change my exhaust to impact the situation. But knowing that this thing is rich and lean, I really am hesitant to touch the exhaust just yet until I see these numbers. Now, if I see these numbers down around here for both places, I know that this is going to come up. And then if it doesn't come up enough, then I can address the exhaust. So I'm trying to prevent tackling 15 things at one time while I'm troubleshooting this. The fact of the matter is, I have a problem down low with my tuning. It's evident by the air-fuel ratio. So what I'm thinking about trying next, if the ThunderMax cannot tune it out, I'm going to buy the Dyno Jet Power Vision. And these guys at Burnout Cycles are going to tune it on a dyno and dial this thing in all the way across. Okay? And then run another dyno run. Now, here's what we could find. I really like the ThunderMax, but if it can't tune it out, I'm going to go to the Dyno Jet. But I'm still going to do a comparison of both of them back to back. Can I get more horsepower? Well, looking at this, if you look at where your peak horsepower is made, it's made about right here. Let's say 5,200 to 5,600. Well, let's look at it. 52 to 5,600. I got a problem. There's room for adjustment. This one's close, but it still can be slightly bumped. So what that says to me is if I did 106 horsepower with my air-fuel ratio not ideal, I think I've got 110 to 112 horsepower in this bike. It may be wishful thinking, but my goal, remember, was to be around 112. So I'll do a video on my updated ThunderMax tuning and dyno run. So we'll see if we can pull this out with the ThunderMax. And then if so, what do these numbers change to? And then I'm still going to do the Dyno Jet, but I'm going to get them both dialed in the best they can and do a back-to-back comparison. I want to see 112 horsepower. And the torque, I can't remember what my torque was stock, but it's like 100, 104, 103, something like that. So I got 15 foot-pounds of torque and 26 horsepower. That's awesome. But seeing this concerns me. I don't want to be running this bike this lean and then this rich right here. I know I'm not spending a lot of time here, but actually you're there a lot. You're not there long. Every time you slow down and take off, you're in this area. I don't race here, But when you lug the bike, this is the area you're in. So I've got to get this worked out. And I think that a video comparing the ThunderMax and the Dyno jet, maximizing the ThunderMax, and then letting these guys at Burnout Cycles dyno tune this bike, I would love to see how the two compare. I don't have a problem with the ThunderMax unless it's not going to fix this problem, and I may be missing something. So reserve your judgment. We know the ThunderMax is doing great, but there's a little something going on here, and it may be in the way I did the auto tuning, but that's what I'm working on now. So stay tuned for that video, because I'd love to see how the two compare to each other. But you know what? This is a learning experience for me completely. I'm learning this stuff as I go, sharing it because a lot of people shared things with me. I searched a lot on the internet and YouTube and got a lot of good information from folks when I was doing this cam. Installed the cam myself because I had good people on YouTube that had really good information. So I want to share this journey as I go, so somebody new to this might be watching and say, hey, this is the type of information that I need. And I can save somebody possibly a headache down the road. But just to recap, the cam is a Wood 22XD. I did the Wood night prowler lifters, adjustable push rods. I did the fueling pinion gear. I read and looked that there was a little bit of play, 1 or 2 degrees of play in the stock pinion gear. And I'll be damned, there sure was. When I took my timing cover off, that pinion gear would move. Pulled it off, put the fueling on. It don't move. It moves only when the pinion moves, it moves. Pinion shaft. So, new cam bearing. Nothing to the heads yet. Straight through exhaust with Cobra neighbor haters. And an air filter, of course, with ThunderMax tuner. So I guess overall, the way the bike runs, I would be happy staying at 106 for this setup once I get this worked out. Okay, this has got to go. I can't handle this. This is baloney. It's going to also bring this more like this. So I'm leaving horsepower and torque, a lot of horsepower and torque on the table down low. But I'm happy with the 106, but I still want to try to get 112. So all you guys out there that are taking cams similar to this with the same setup with just a filter, straight through exhaust, cam, and you're making 120 horsepower, by all means, educate me. With stock injectors, 120 horsepower, if you're somebody that's doing that, put it on me in the comments. Let me know. I'm very interested in that. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this. If you got some questions, let me know. And if you haven't, subscribe to my channel. Hit the notifications. I'm shocked. Getting close to 300 subscribers. And I just did this starting out as something to have fun with and help other people. And I'm surprised at the feedback I've got. So I appreciate you watching.